Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to Google Marketing Platform on Air. Today's session will be on Display and Video 360, and specifically on structured data files. My name is Marc-Antoine Simon. I am a programmatic account strategist on the French market. I've been at Google for a year and a half now, and before Google, I was a trader, programmatic trader at an agency.
And my name is Pavels Petrovs. I'm also programmatic account strategy here at Google. I work for UK and Irish markets. In Google for about a year or thereabouts. And prior to this role, I used to be in DV360 support.
Super. So before we get started, for those who haven't already, definitely highly recommend to sign up to the GMP bi-weekly newsletter. It's just a great place to go to stay up to date with the whole GMP suite products. Side note, I even use it myself to stay up to date. So it's definitely a great resource. I highly recommend for you guys to sign up if you haven't already. So super excited to be here. Today's session will be on SDF, so structured data files. We'll give you a quick introduction of what it is, how it works, and the limitations that come into place. We thought the best way to actually, show and present to you guys SDF would be via demo videos. So we'll show you how to upload them, how you can use them in the marketplace via the planner, how to create campaign setups and templates themselves. And then we have Pavels here who will touch about API integrations with SDF and best-in-class usage. So what is an SDF? So it's also known as a structured data file. The way I like to explain it to my clients, it's actually just a skeleton of the UI that you can visualize in a Google Sheet or a spreadsheet. So it's just a great way to optimize and automate daily tasks that you would be doing as a trader. So really here to help you gain efficiency in your day-to-day. So SDFs are traditionally, known as a tool to help you build your campaigns or edit an existing line item. But there's actually so much more that you can do through structured data files. Our goal today will be to highlight all the best ways that you can use it. So not only from campaign and insertion orders, but from your TrueView campaigns to the marketplace itself and the planner within DV360. So to highlight here, really what an SDF does, you download it, you modify what you need to do, and then you upload it at the touch of a click, and everything is done in a very fast manner. There's two ways that you can actually edit the files of the SDF, right? There's the manual way, the human interaction way, which we'll touch base on today, but there's also the software here where we're talking about entity read files. These are external sources of API integrations that you can use your SDFs for. So first thing, and very important to know, is actually how do you even find and download these SDFs? So if you look at my top screen here on the left, you can see these three little points. Always look for these three little dots, because that's when you click on this, this will always give you the ability to download and upload an SDF. So what does it even look like in SDF? So an SDF is actually here. It's like a spreadsheet or a Google Sheet, and it just visualizes for you all the parameters that has been put into either the marketplace, your insertion order, your YouTube campaign, etc. And it'll break down to the columns all the information that you want to put. So how do you actually even use an SDF, right? So of course, you can do it from blank. So if you want to create a campaign from the start, from scratch, let's say, you can use Excel macros or Google Sheet macros, and you can populate an SDF within it. You can also use it to manipulate. So let me say I have 500 line items, right? And my client comes to me mid-campaign and goes, look, we have to change the creative assets. So of course, you don't want to manually go through 500 line items and change one by one the creative, right? So then you can upload and modify your SDF for the creatives within them. Right, so very fast, very time-efficient way to just modify something so big that would have previously taken maybe 2-3 hours of your time. So a lot of you might think, so when I use an SDF, there's a lot of IDs, and why do they have IDs, right? Why, when I'm trying to target France, I can't just write France and I have to give it the respective ID that correspond to it? So SDF initially wasn't intended for humans. It was built for the computers. But our objective today is to really highlight all the best tips and tricks that we can show you guys in order to use SDF in the most friendly and efficient manner. So we thought the best way to really highlight this will be through demos. So we'll give you a couple of demos today on the usage of SDF. So the first demonstration I'm going to give you guys is actually how to just simply upload and download an SDF. So in this example, I'm going to select my 3 line items, so my 3 display line items, because these are the ones I want to modify for this example. Once I select it, you can see my line items have been selected, have been chosen. I will download it. And I will open my Google Sheets. I highly recommend and can't stress enough to use Google Sheets, right? It's not because we're Google that I'm trying to sell you guys it. It's really because a Google product will work best with another Google product, right? This will save so many errors that you probably previously faced if you had an Excel. So the first thing it's going to ask you is the import location. I just want to pause here. The first thing is replace the current sheet, right? So that you don't have to open a new sheet. But very, very important, it's going to ask you to convert text to numbers, dates, and formulas, and it's going to be naturally selected as yes. You want to select no, right? Because this will save so much of the formatting issues that come into place. Once you're happy with it, it uploads, as you can see, super fast. You can make whatever changes you need, and then when you download it, here again, I'll pause my screen, 2 seconds. So I went to download as, and I'm choosing comma separated values or CSV. Okay, it has to be a CSV format for you to upload or download it into the UI interface. So super, I'm happy with my SDF. I'm now looking to upload it. Oh yes, friendly reminder, my 3 little dots, then I can upload. I can even drag and drop right directly my SDF file into the UI.
All right. Another exciting way you can use SDF is to modify your existing inventory sources as well as creating new ones. In this demo, I'm going to download a couple of my inventory sources. So here I go into inventory, my inventory. You can select one or multiple inventory sources, or in fact, you can just tick all of the ones that you currently see on the page. Here, you need to hit the action button and download SDF. It's the only option available. You can select if you want to just download the SDF for all of the inventory sources you have, or simply just for the ones you have selected. In this case, I'm downloading the selected ones. Depending on the number of entities, it might take some time to process. There's about 16 inventory sources here, so it should be relatively quick. So download, and it downloads the zip file with the selected SDFs inside of them. All SDFs are always going to be in comma-separated value formats. And here it is, opening up. All right, let's have a look at what's inside this SDF. So the SDF for inventory sources contains majority, or in fact, sorry, all of the configuration options that you need: exchange, product IDs, inventory source IDs, details for the publisher, rates, the currency used, start and end dates, as well as acquisition date, which is when you have acquired this inventory source, units, and the file formats, and all the details of the deals further down. Let's try adding a couple of advertiser permissions to this SDF, to this inventory source. So here I navigate towards the permission advertisers. I copy the advertiser IDs from the inventory source below. Don't forget the trading comma to close the list. And now this inventory source will have the same permissions to these two advertisers. Will be permissioned, my apologies, to these two advertisers. I save the CSV, go back to the same page I downloaded the SDF from, hit the 3 little dots, and upload the file itself. There it is. Might take some minutes to process itself after you hit upload, but I'm going to spoil it for you guys. The upload was successful and everything went well.
And this is a great way, because when I was in agency, lots of deal IDs that we have to upload. I remember spending multiple hours a day just manually uploading one deal ID after another. So great tool. So now I also want to highlight the planner. So for those who are familiar, there is in DV360 a planner. We were talking about like manual ways to best use the SDF. I definitely highlight you guys to use the planner tool as a start, because what you can do is you can put your audiences that you want to target, you want to exclude, you can put your whitelist, the type of technologies. Once you're actually happy with the plan and you actually have it validated by your clients and that's what you want to go for your campaign, you can actually download the SDF, right? So what does that mean? It's going to take into account all the parameters, so all the settings that you wanted to target directly from your planner into an SDF, meaning that you can then use this SDF to build your campaign. So from the planner directly to the building of your campaigns, this can automatically be done for you. So as you can see, in the example in the planner, I had a type of campaign. It was a video campaign I wanted to put. I had to put my specific budget. I wanted to target France. France has a unique ID. I wanted to put my whitelist. My whitelist has a unique ID, same as my affinity audiences that I'm targeting and excluding, right? So all of these are IDs, right? But just through the planner, it was very easy to navigate and select the ones you wanted. Therefore, the SDF shows it for you. So no need to memorize. Now I'm also going to talk about another tip, something I highly recommend is creating templates, right? So this is something I used to do when I was a trader and something I highly recommend. So you have many different types of campaigns that you're going to build. And it's going to be a lot of standard settings that you know you need to use across all of them, right? So let's say I'm a trader on the French market. I'll always want to target the French language and the French geography, right? In my display campaigns, things might get a little bit more complex. I have a very unique exchanges I need to target. I have my whitelist, right? I have to put it across all my campaigns. Of course, again, geography will be French. This time in my display campaigns, I want to do some day parting targeting. I want to use a very specific type of the algorithm bidding. So all of these are parameters, right, that are standard and I will want to have across all my campaigns, right? And video, the same thing, right? So my whitelist for video will be implemented. I only want to do pre-roll targeting. HD player size is something very specific or I need for my client. French targeting, day parting, and even here, I don't want to have user rewarded content. So I want that to make sure that's standard across all my campaigns. So I will create a template and have all the settings already built. So why I highlight this is because after you can actually download the SDF, okay, and then you have them as templates. So here, this is my video campaign. I had my display campaigns. I have every parameters in here, my whitelist, everything that we mentioned before. So what do you actually do with this template? As you can see, I highlighted in red. In red would be things that you would want to remove, right? Your line item ID, your IO ID, because here you're trying to create a template. So these are IDs very specific to a campaign. You want to remove them. You would also want to remove the timestamp. In orange, this is everything that you want to keep because these are standard, right? This is my template for my audio campaign. So the type will always be audio, right? My targeting will always be France. My language will always be France, etc. In green, though, will be things that I can actually modify. So of course, here I'm going to change my start and my end date. I can change my budget that I want to do, the type of pacing. So in this example, I'm going to change to a daily. I'll do even. And I'll set a specific amount that I want to spend per day. I even want to put my frequency cap, etc. Right? And I want to do my frequency cap by day, not minutes. And then you can see here, for example, the partner revenue cost, all of that is standard, right? You don't want to change it. So that can stay as it is, but you can change your bidding. Again, here another example, your geography, your language targeting, because these are IDs. You might not know them by heart, but at least through your template, they'll always be there for you because you know that regardless, you'll be targeting the same country. So now we'll just go through campaign uploads. So let's say I have this existing line item, right? I'm going to make some couple changes. I want to build a new line item. That's my objective here. So I had my template. I know exactly what I want. I'm going to make some little edits. As you can see, I'm going to change my pacing here, my start date. Once I'm happy with everything, I'm going to download. Again, highly recommend CSV. You have to do it. That's what's going to avoid a lot of errors. Look for my 3 little dots, and I'm going to upload my SDF. So a great thing about SDF is it's actually going to tell you if there's errors or if it was successfully uploaded. So in this specific case, there is an error. And I love that it actually tells me what the error is. So it tells me, hey, Mark, you forgot to add the insertion ID, right? So of course, I'm trying to create a new line item within an existing campaign, but you need to put a sort of ID to know, for the system to know where to put this new line item, right? So without the IO ID, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So I make the quick change and I upload it again. I really want to highlight and take this minute to highlight, because this is very important. Let's say I had 400 line items, right? And 399 of them had no issue. So the error only came to one of them. So that actually would mean that 399 of those line items will be automatically uploaded. The only one that won't be uploaded is the one with the error, right? And then quickly here, it will point out where's the error, to which line item it is. And then in this example, it's telling me, hey, you forgot to put a budget in your pacing, right? And that's a no-no. So of course, I go back into the system, I make my quick edit, I know for which line item it was for, I download it again, I go back to the UI, and this time, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm going to upload it and I will have no errors. So yeah, definitely want to re-highlight this. It will upload, if there's no errors on a specific line item, that one will be uploaded. It will only reject the one that actually has the error, and it will tell you exactly where it is. And you will also receive this by email. So not just on the UI, but you'll receive an email that will tell you this information. So here, awesome. My line item was successfully uploaded. So that's fantastic. So technically, if I refresh my UI, I should see the new line items have been built. And it has. So fantastic. And then if you open it, you'll see all the changes that I made for it.
Sorry, and this video, oops, my apologies there. And let's go back and back. Okay, let's try going forward and back. Nope, that's frozen.
Let me do this. All right.
Sorry, guys, presentation's a bit frozen. Let us go back. There it is. All right. So it wouldn't be a live stream without a technical issue. Now in this video, I'm going to show you a typical workflow for modifying and making optimization to already existing live campaigns using SDFs. One of the use cases for SDFs is bulk editing campaigns. So let's have a look here. In this case, I'm going to try and see, I have already a campaign that ran for a few days, and I'm going to see which creative sizes have been underperforming, and I'm going to try and exclude those creative sizes from this. So here I go into the optimization lens, segmented by the creative size, and here you can see, by the way, if you haven't used the optimization lens, highly recommend you check it out. It's a great tool for conducting optimizations and reviewing how your campaign is currently doing, and which targeting positions are working and which ones are not. In this case, I'm looking at the creative sizes, and I noticed that 728 by 90 is in fact performing the worst, a whopping 485% worse CPA than my target CPA of 15 cents. So obviously, I'd probably want to exclude this creative size from all of the line items that I'm targeting, that I'm running in this insertion order. So I go back to the insertion order itself, find out one of the line items, and I'll need to find first and foremost the line item, the ID, apologies, of the creative that I'm going to exclude. Here I see that the creative size is 780 by 90 is under this ID. I know, because I set up this campaign, that all of the line items have the same creatives. So select all line items, go into action, and download the SDF file. It'll take a second or two to generate and process. There it is. Download the zip file. Inside that zip file, there'll be only one CSV file called SDF line items. And here it is, the line item level SDF. Right, so I'm going to navigate towards the part that mentions the creative targeting. These are all the creatives that are targeted. I'm going to remove the one creative that with the ID that I copied, which is 7280 by 90. There it is, removing it, expanding or copying the selection to the rest of the line items, and saving this CSV file. Now I'm using Excel here to modify SDS. This is not the recommended version. My Excel is specifically configured not to modify any fields whatsoever in order to avoid breaking the formats. I go back to the line item, to the insertion order level, click the three dots, and upload the SDF itself. Can't really find it initially. There it is. Hit upload. It'll take a few seconds to process itself. Boom. All done. Lightning fast. I checked there's no errors. If there was, it wouldn't be a green tick, but rather either an orange one or a red one. And let's go back into the line item itself to see if the SDF has in fact removed the files. There it is, only 2 creatives targeted. Happy days.
Super. So as we mentioned before, we're here to help you guys out. So there's a lot of IDs that falls in SDF. That might be one of the reasons you're feeling reluctant to use them, but no worries. There is an external tricks with all the respective IDs. So as you can see, for example, on my left, languages, I want to target France. French language has this very unique ID, right? If I want to target a very specific city in Spain, right, that city will have its unique ID. So what we're going to do, and definitely ask your account managers to share these tricks with you, it will have all the IDs there for you. Something I've seen some of my clients do, right, is they have a media plan. So in their media plan, one of the columns will say, this is a display campaign. I will be targeting contextually, keep my keyword whitelist, and I'll be targeting a very specific city in France, right? Just via basic VLOOKUPs, they can actually go fetch the IDs from the tricks, and it will populate automatically an SDF for them, right? So this is just manual way to be more efficient with the SDF in itself from taking the tricks and using it directly with your media plan.
All right, so a couple of notes on editing the structured data files. How do you determine when you're creating versus editing the line items themselves? So if you upload a line item level SDF without a line item ID, it will create a new line item in the insertion order you specify in the IO ID field. If you upload a line item SDF with an existing line item ID populated in the line item ID field, it'll modify that current line item. And just to attract your attention again, Excel is not recommended for modifying SDFs, as quite commonly it changes the formats of dates, which will end up failing the SDF if the date stamp itself has been modified. So Google Sheets is the best practice or the best recommended tool to edit SDFs. All right. How do I edit the line items? So there's a couple of things you can do with the SDF with line items. If you want to copy the line items, you download the SDF, remove the line item IDs in the SDF, and since the row will not, since an SDF without a line item ID in it will simply create a new one, you have already copied, and all of the targeting options will be pre-populated from the old line item. You will essentially create a new line when you upload it. To archive line items, you need to download the SDF of the line items you want to archive and simply edit the status to archived, then upload them back up again. To create new line items, as I've mentioned, you simply remove the line item ID rows, and this instructs DV360 to create new ones. And to move line items from one advertiser to another, we'll touch upon that topic in a second. Just a caveat to remember that some targeting options are proprietary to the advertiser. So whenever you're trying to migrate line items, or in fact entire advertisers, you'll need to make sure that you clean up your SDF from any and all IDs that are specific to the parent advertiser and are not available in the target advertiser. Some of the ones that are more common ones will be creative IDs if they're not synced over from Campaign Manager, pixel IDs, and audience IDs. There's a couple of other ones as well. You need to double check yourself. Right, so multiple file uploads. It's also possible to create new line items with new insertion orders simultaneously, or similarly, new TrueView ads in new TrueView ad groups. Essentially, this will be useful if you're, as I mentioned, migrating advertisers, or if you're planning to copy a structure of one advertiser in another one. To do that, you'll need to use temporary identifier IDs. The format for them is EXT and then a certain number. So where do these temporary IDs go? In the line item level SDF, these temporary IDs go into the IO ID field. So for instance, I want to create a new insertion order. And in the insertion order SDF, I give it a temporary identifier of EXT123. In the line item level SDF, I will put all of the line items that need to be nested under the this insertion order. I'll give it also a temporary identifier of EXT123 in the IOID field. This will essentially instruct DV360 to nest all of the new line items under this new single created existing, newly created, my apologies, insertion order. Similarly, when you're trying to link TrueView ad to TrueView ad groups, because these are also two separate SDF files, you will need to put the temporary IDs into the ad group ID field. Okay. Date formats are crucial for success. So as mentioned, for new IO line items, ensure you put in date in the future. So when you're trying to, let's say if you're trying to copy an existing line item structure, you download the line item level SDF, and then you try to upload it again with the same start date. It'll throw you an error because the start date always needs to be in the future, and your existing line item more than likely started in the past. So be extra diligent whenever you're trying to copy existing line item structures. Make sure you put the start dates in the future. So the correct format for the SDF is going to be month, day, year, hours, semicolon, minutes, semicolon, seconds. So 25th December 2018. 2018 at 10 p.m. would be 12/25 2018 22 semicolon 0 semicolon 00.
American platform, American dates.
That's it. Which targeting options support SDF and which do not? So SDF supports certain features, and with each new version of SDF, new features gets added in, but there's usually a little bit of lag between new features being released in the platform and new features being supported in SDF. I'm not going to read this slide out to you, but there's some line items targeting features that are not supported. Some of them are. I think the key one for TrueView would be TrueView for Action, which is not yet supported via SDFs. If you try to download an SDF for a line item type that is not supported, it'll simply display blank. So it'll just not download or not be featured in the SDF files at all. And if it's for a feature that is not supported, the feature would simply not be present in SDF.
Awesome. So here at Google, when we're trying to understand the maturity of our clients, there's this maturity framework that we look at, right? And it's starting from a nascent advertiser or a nascent client to a multi-moment one, okay? So when we're talking about a nascent, we're really talking about manual. So what does this mean? This means the trader itself is going to do bulk uploads or bulk changes just within the UI. So if they want to create a new line item, they're just going to duplicate it. They will go manually inside the line item, and they'll make the changes within the UI itself, right? Then when we're looking at a bit more advanced clients, we can see, we'll call them emerging, right? And this is when the SDF really comes into play. This means either they're using a lot of SDFs to do manual uploads, or they're even looking now into the API integrations, which we're going to touch base on after this. And then when you grow and you mature, right, then you have connected to multi-moments. And here you're really going to start using the GMP APIs. So here we're talking about data transfer, ads data hub, right? So really what we're talking about is you create, you have your campaign, and just via APIs and reporting, everything is automated. The algorithm will change everything for you. So you can just literally print an SDF, re-upload everything back into the system, and your campaign is created with all the optimizations that you want it to take place. And we'll go through this a bit later. So there'll be a live stream on APIs that will give you more of a focus on how these things are done. Today, we'll just touch base on what is possible via the SDF APIs.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about entity read files, also called ERFs. So what are ERFs? ERFs are essentially JSON representations of all of your of all the entities present, targeting entities present in DV360. So there's two types of ERFs. We'll talk about them in a second. However, the kind of the workflow for SDFs using ERFs is pretty much the same. You download SDF itself, you cross-reference the IDs in the SDF with the IDs in the ERF. So ERFs are translations from the IDs SDF would use to human-readable options. So for example, Marc-Antoine has mentioned geo already, or language. If you wanted language as French, in the SDF file, it'll be encoded with its unique ID. So you'll simply need to download the ERF for languages and find the French language, copy the ID, and put it in the SDFs. Right, so entity read files contain lookup values, that's what they're called. So the files themselves are written one time per day, and there's two separate cloud buckets. They're actually contained within the cloud bucket. Sorry, I should have mentioned that first. There's two types. There's public, which contains all of the information, or rather all of the entities that are universal to all advertisers. Public ones contain things like URL IDs, geo IDs, language IDs, etc., etc. And then there's private buckets, which contain roughly 13 files, sometimes a little bit more, that contains entities that are unique and individual to each advertiser. So things like creative IDs, line item IDs, pixel IDs, etc., etc. So all of the things that would be only found in your advertiser specifically. The JSON files themselves are retained for free of charge for 60 days from the processing day, and they're uploaded once per day. Right. So the public files themselves contain common data, as I mentioned, and they contain millions and millions of rows. So as you can imagine, as you can see, some of our public entity read files will be called universal site, which would contain IDs and URLs, all of the currently targetable URLs within DV360, which is millions and millions of rows. This slide mentions 65 million rows. The public bucket itself, or rather the files within the public bucket itself, follow the following format: gdbm-public, which is the name of the bucket itself, then /entity, just as a word, /processing date dot batch index dot entity type dot JSON. Private files contain information about the partner campaigns, budgets, and other private data. They're contained in a bucket called gdbm-partner ID. So in this case, the partner ID is 234340. So the bucket is gdbm-234340 /entity /processing date batch index and entity type. You can see the list of all the entity types, and there's a little bit more of the private ones than there is of the public ones. The private ones tend to be slightly smaller in size, assuming none of you have 65 million creatives in your DV360 advertisers. All right. Let's talk briefly about some of the use cases for SDFs themselves. Marc-Antoine, do you want to take the first one?
Yeah, so there's a telecom client in France, and they've been using SDF. So they use it as a temp, so they have their template. They use them to upload campaigns. They even use it for QA purposes. So, when a trader, before they go live, they want to show the whole UI, the whole setup to their managers to get it approved. So they'll just print the SDF, and the manager will quickly review it, everything, and sign it off. And then they'll just upload the SDF, and everything is done, right? So we had a case study about this company. So this company is now fully SDF. So anything that they do, they'll do it via an SDF integration. And we've seen 80 to 90% cutoff time. So they have really been much more efficient in their daily tasks, right? So at a click of a button, the trader will wake up in the morning and just via the SDFs, the whole campaign is set up, it's optimized, it's modified, and plenty of time during the rest of the day to do more important things.
Awesome. All right, so this is just as a reminder, what are the use cases for manual and programmatic editing of SDFs? So we have mentioned before, and most of this presentation was focused on the manual editing of SDFs, which could be used when you're setting up a plan. So for a planner, they set up a plan in the planning tool in the UI, and as Marc-Antoine shown in his demo, simply download the SDF, pass it on to the trafficking team, who can then, and to the trading team, my apologies, who can then upload it in one quick go, and have the plan already in the system without manually going through spreadsheets and transferring it over to DV360. You can create templates, which will allow you, out of your most used campaigns, which will allow you to, at a click of a button, to modify only the campaign-specific details without having to apply manually all of your standard targeting, such as whitelists, blacklists, etc. You can bulk edit campaigns, as I've shown in the short demo. If you find that you need to optimize multiple campaigns, or in fact, if you need to simply change the creative assets, you don't have to go into campaigns one by one. You can simply download the SDF for all the line items you need to modify and do it in a quick drag. And then you can upload publisher deal IDs as well as modify the permissions for the current deal IDs using SDS. So for all of the new deals, or even if you need to modify the existing deals, simply download the SDF for inventory sources, put in all of the details, and fire them up into DV360. Now, there's also a few programmatic editing use cases, which are a little bit higher on the maturity framework and are a little bit more exciting. So you can use SDFs to integrate with a custom reporting system. So if you need to feed the current setups of your line item IDs to a reporting system, you can simply integrate it with the DV360 API. By the way, a quick caveat, you can download SDFs using the DV360 API. It's a simple GET request. However, in order to upload them, it needs to be a manual job. So you need to do it in the UI. There's also automated making decision systems. In the case study with the fridge agency that Marc-Antoine mentioned, they have built a fully automated decision-making system that takes into account multiple factors and multiple targeting options, and then simply prints out an SDF with all of the details that needs to be modified, that needs to be optimized. So we don't have to manually go into the system anymore and check, hey, what is underperforming? Simply upload the SDF, and it's all processed, as well as media plan activation tools. So you can integrate your third-party or custom in-house build media plan tool into printing SDFs for easy upload. So instead of going and putting into a spreadsheet and then manually uploading it, once again, you can simply churn out an SDF and off you go. All right.
Super. Yeah. So we definitely highly recommend everyone to redo this Academy for Ads. So it's a training on SDF. I think it takes around like 10 to 15 minutes. You have the link here at the bottom. And it's just a good way to refresh yourself on the best way to use SDF, or even learn from the get-go if you're not familiar with the system already. And super. So we wanted to give time now to kind of answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Thank you very much for listening in. All right. Let's switch to questions. Okay. Let's have a quick read through them. There's a lot.
A lot of questions today. Awesome.
All right. So let's start with this one. I'll read out the question first, and then I think I'll answer this one. So where can location lists IDs be found in the documentation? Are the lists available for country IDs, provinces, zip codes? Yes, indeed. So you can find these lists either in the file that Marc-Antoine has mentioned, so requested from your account manager, which is just an Excel spreadsheet with all the mappings for that can be found in entity read files, or if you want the most up-to-date information, you can access the public entity read file bucket that contains all of the GeoIDs. It'll contain all of the granularity that you need, up to and down to zip codes. So feel free to use them. You can access it via the cloud storage bucket, via your web interface, or programmatically by using the DBM API.
Super. So another question. So the problem we are finding is that most of the times when we use SDFs, we receive several errors when uploading. So we have to spend a lot of time figuring out where the error comes from. So I really hope via the demonstration videos, we highlighted the fact that today, for example, if you have 500 line items and 499 of them had no errors, then it will only it will upload automatically the ones that didn't have an issue, and it will only pinpoint the error. As you saw in the demo video, if you actually open the system, it should definitely pinpoint where exactly this error has come from. In my example, it mentioned I didn't have an insertion ID, so that was very easy for me to go in and modify that.
Okay. So, all right. So ideally, so the next question would be, how can we prevent our Excel to format cells like the speaker just said? So ideally, it'll be best to avoid using Excel altogether. However, if you must, it's best to configure Excel to avoid to prevent it from modifying any and all formatting cells. So basically keep it as raw as possible. The main issue, as I mentioned with Excel, that when you upload specific date formats, it tends to change it to your local date format. And if your local date format is, let's say, not a US date one, it will simply change any date you put into European date format, or the year, month, date one, and as a result, the processing will fail.
Super. So the next question is actually, is there a support page explaining also possible SDF errors and how to get around them? Absolutely. So in the slide where I was showing the tricks where you can actually get all the IDs, at the bottom of that slide, there is the SDF Help Center. So in there, you can find all the IDs, what they mean, the types of errors that you find. It even gives you some explanations around what Pavels was mentioning earlier on the API via the entity read files. So all this information is documented in the help centers and in that specific one for SDF.
Excellent. Just to throw in a little bit in there as well, there is also a developers page that mentions the full SDF file references, i.e. which each individual field means and how many fields are in fact contained within the SDF. That also gives you updates on what is new in each version of SDF. So you can see something we should have probably mentioned during the presentation, but there's multiple versions of SDF. And in your advertiser and partner basic details, you can see which version of SDF currently are running or currently live for your partner advertiser. If you change the version of SDF, all the old files become incompatible with the new version, but with each new version, there are brand new features being introduced, and any feature, usually there's more and more feature parity between the UI and what's available in SDFs with the later versions. All right. And this one. So the next question would be, can you use this feature to copy setups in different advertiser campaigns? I think this one as well. Yes, you can. You can use the SDF, as I mentioned, by using temporary identifiers. You can recreate the insertion order, line item, campaign, advertiser hierarchies. So you can use SDFs to migrate between, let's say, from one campaign to another campaign, if you don't want to duplicate it, or if you want to move line items from one advertiser to another advertiser, all you got to do is simply use temporary identifiers and clean up your SDFs from any and all IDs that are unique to the parent advertiser and not available in the target advertiser. So let me take the next one as well, and it's over to you, Mark. So is there a possibility to integrate the downloaded files with report files? Yes and no. So there's nothing in the DV360 UI currently that will allow you to download the combined report file / SDF file. However, there are multiple columns that would be similar between the reporting and the SDF. So if you need to tie them up together, you can simply join them at the insertion order or line item ID fields. And this way you'll be able to have a single file that contains both the performance data and the setup information available in SDFs.
Okay, so the next question is asking us, will SDF work for TrueView for Action and TrueView for Reach? Right, so today, no, right? That's the answer. But it will definitely come up. We definitely highly recommend. So I labeled in the slide where there's the limitations, the SDF 5. So definitely get in touch with your account manager so they can tell you what is upcoming in the new SDF releases. So now, as you guys know, we have SDF 5 that's coming out. Once we share this deck around, you'll be able to access it, and you'll be able to see all the new features that are pretty exciting that are coming to SDF 5.
Thank you. One second. That's the next question. Let me just scroll through this. All right. So next question is, hi, what about SDF v5? Will there be strong differences with the previous versions? So yes, there are a couple of new features added in the SDF 5.0. I highly recommend you check out the developers page on SDF. That will contain all of the new release features. So there are specific release notes that mention what features have been added and what features have been modified. And there's a couple of exciting new technologies that are now supported via SDFs. Just as a reminder, once you change the file, the type of SDF, or the version of SDF that your advertiser is currently running, all of the SDF files generated with the previous version of the SDF will not be compatible. So you'll need to re-download them once again. All right. There's a question of, can you share the presentation you went through? Just as a reminder, that if you want the deck, you can reach out to your GMP POC, and they will be more than happy to share the deck with you. All right. Let's see what else is in here. Okay, so You want to take any of these, Mark?
Yeah, so one of the questions, are there any plans to download creatives when you want to modify landing page URLs? The answer is yes, but when is it going to be released? That, of course, is a secret. No, I'm joking, but we don't really know yet. Definitely get involved, reach out to your account manager, tell them what it is. So if it's not planned in the SDF 5.1 release, then we can always make a feature request on your behalf. So I think that's it. I'm being told time is up. So guys, thank you so much for listening in today on SDF. We really hope it was useful. We really want to see you guys now use them more and more, and definitely reach out to your account managers to get that tricks that will definitely facilitate your life. All right.
Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.